To make my hearth, I'm starting off on the floor. So the distance that I'm going across is 10.5 centimeters and the depth is 6.5 centimeters. And I've just curved the sides off a little bit. So I've got a piece of cardboard which is a half a centimeter thick, and then I've got another piece of cardboard which is 1 millimeter thick. And on this thin one, I'm just going to be drawing random shapes so that it looks like slate. And I'm just using the point of my compass to do that. And then just do the whole thing. So that's what it looks like. And now I'm going to paint it. Now, for myself personally, I've only ever seen slate as the really, really dark colours. So I'm going to just be going with a dark grey. But because I want a bit of a variation in tones going through it all, I'll show you how I'm going to paint that. I've glued my small piece onto my thick piece. And now I'm just going to be taking some masking tape and going around the edges so that I've got a nice clean edge on this side. To paint my slate, I'm using titanium white and Mars black, and I'm just going to mix them to give me a darkish colour grey. So that's quite the grey, and then we're just going to take random blobs and just put them down and then vary the colour so that we've got different colours going through. And then we're just going to blend that. So when I blend, I just roll my brush in that motion like that. So we've got some nice variations in the colour tones now. Don't forget to paint the sides. So the paint is all dry. I'm pretty happy with the result of that. As you can see, it looks like slate. To make the hearth, I'm using the boxes from Cans. It's a nice thin box. And I'm going in by 1 centimeter, then 3 centimeters, 10 centimeters, 3 centimeters, and 1 centimeter. And I'll be cutting that along there. And the height that I'm going up for is 3.5 centimeters. And I'm just going to score along all those lines. Obviously, that one's a cut one, and that's a cut line. From the 10 centimeter line, I'm going in by 2.5 centimeters on both sides, so that's my middle, and then I'm going up and cutting it 1 centimeter from the top. So I'm going to be cutting this small piece out. So that I've got a neat edge, I'm going to score along here and cut 0.5 centimeter on the outside so I can fold that under. I've done the same along the top, and now I'm just going to cut at a 45 and take that part and that part out so we can fold these ones all under. So it's like that. I'm taking some of my really thin cardboard and I'm going to be cutting a 0.5 centimeter strip so that I can glue it on here so that it can neaten up that whole edge. Before I glue it in, I'm going to be doing the brick design on the front. So my design that I've been going for all my other pieces is going down by 1 centimeter and then across by 1.5 centimeters, and then drawing one row and then alternating by going in the center of that and drawing the next row. So there's not an awful lot to do on this one, so I'm just going to score all those bricks. I'm taking a slightly thicker piece of cardboard than my Pepsi box, and I'm cutting 3 pieces. So they're starting off at 3.5 centimeters by 10, and then it's going to go up to 4 centimeters by 10.5, and then the next one will be 4.5 centimeters by 11 centimeters. So we're going to just cut 3 pieces out like that. I've glued my pieces together, and now I'm just taking some masking tape and closing up so you don't see all those ripples. When you're putting your masking tape on, cut the corner piece at a 45-degree angle so that it folds up nicely. So our piece should look like that. And now we can paint it. I've cut 2 pieces exactly the same, and these particular ones are 5.5 centimeters wide each, and they go up by 7 centimeters. But I might be trimming those down because I only have a very small little area underneath there to fit this in. So we'll see how we go with the height. And then I'm just going to do the same brick pattern across these ones by going 1 centimeter and then 1.5 centimeters for the size of the brick. I've got all my pieces done, and I decided I didn't like the distance of the bricks at 1.5 because they made them look a little bit squat. They're okay on the small one here because you don't notice them that much. But what I've got is 1 centimeter by 2 centimeters. And now I'm just going to paint them all this very light colour grey. I'd already started painting when I realised I forgot to put my trim on. So I'm using this very nice thin cord. And I'm just going to be going around the sides to there because I've got some pieces that I just made using my glue gun. Looks like that, which is going to be sitting right on those points. And then I've got another piece that I just got of some clothing, which is just a piece of coconut that's carved like that, which I'm going to be putting there. So I'm going to be placing my cord on the side and down the middle and that side as well. Now that the paint is dry, we're taking a slightly lighter colour grey, and on the right hand corner of each brick we're just going to make kind of like a 7. So you just have to work out. This one's a little bit difficult because they're half bricks, so just work out if you start there and go down, it sort of like does a pattern like that, which you just follow all the way down. Again, this side. And just do all of them the same. And now we're going to take a slightly darker colour grey than what we've used here, and on the bottom left we're just going to put the same little marking just like that. And then just do all the bricks the same. The little tiny piece that we glued in underneath here, I'm painting black. I've got this little pack of leather metallic strips, and I'm taking these tiny ones. They've just got little tiny studs on them, and I'm just going to be going around underneath like that and around this part just to give it a little bit more dimension. And then I've got these tiny little pegs which I've pulled apart. They're normally for holding Christmas cards, and I'm just cutting the top off so that I'm just left with these tiny little pieces, which are the top parts like that, which I'm going to be sticking to on the sides here to hold the counter on the top. I've got all my little pieces on, so now we can glue it to our slate floor. I'm going to use hot glue to glue this on, like that. To make the flames for my hearth or fireplace, I've got a piece of greaseproof paper, and I'm just taking my glue gun and going a bit of a straight line at the bottom, and then just going up and down in random sort of like patterns, but making sure that the glue is actually all touching. And then close it up, and then take something and just squish it flat, preferably away from the fold. And then just wait for that to dry. My glue is all dry, and now we can just open it. And now we've got a beautiful thin piece of glue like this that we can paint. To paint my flames, I'm using this nail polish. This one's called Tahiti, and this one doesn't actually have a name on that one, but because I don't know how big I want my flames to be, I'm going to paint the whole piece in those two colours. So I'm starting off with the Tahiti, and I'm just painting it because, as I said, I don't know how much of this I'm going to be using and how tall it is, so I'm just painting a little bit like that. It might be too tall, but then I can cut the bottom off. To start off with, I'm just painting the top part. So now that the top part is painted, I can blend it through to fade it in. And if need be, I can put some white tips on them as well. So those are the flames painted, and now we just wait for those to dry. I've painted the decorative piece that's going to be going around the hearth in black, and now I'm going to be using rich gold, and I'm just taking my little sponge. I've got a tiny little sponge like that, and I'm dipping it into my gold paint and taking most of it off so I don't have too much on it, and then just going to dab it on like that to give it a bit of a weathered but still shiny look to it. So like that. To make the pentagram that I'm going to be putting in the center there, I'm just using the top silver part that comes off coffee tins, and I'm just going to be using my dotting tool to do a pentagram. When you're working with the silver paper, it's preferable to work on something a bit soft and squishy, so that when you press on it, it indents like that, so you get that embossing effect on the other side, like that. So I've got my little pentagram like that, and now I'm just going to take it and stick it underneath my little piece, like that. I've glued my piece onto the top of my hearth, and I'm just using these sun and moon logos, and I'm gluing one on each side. On the hearth I've put the little ridge in there, which I'm going to be gluing in as well, and then we can work on the flames and sticks or logs. On the back where I've got my lights coming out, I've glued it. I'm going to be gluing a small piece of cardboard in there, which is the same size as the hearth so that it can get the lights just shining in that small area there. I've taken some of my findings and I've just glued the bottom to make like a little stand. So I'm taking some of my little trinkets and just gluing them on top of the top of the hearth, and then we can glue that on. I've just wrapped my piece of glue that we painted around at the back and put a few logs or little tiny sticks in front of it, so that's what the fireplace looks like. Quite realistic, I think. I've got all my little trinkets put on. I've just taken beads and findings and joined them together to give me an assortment of little things, and now we can put it onto our fireplace like that and then glue it down. If you found this video helpful or you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Really appreciate it if you would subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.